Hey there, I'm Jack. Let me tell you about life in Greenfield. Picture this. Tree-lined streets, kids playing in the yards, and barbecues every other weekend. That's where I live with Emma, my wife, and our 2 kids, Lily and Max. We're kinda like that poster family you see in magazines, you know? I'm an architect. Emma's a big shot in marketing, and we've got this neat, little life neatly packed into a suburban dream. But, I gotta be honest, not everything's as peachy as it looks from the outside. Life in Greenfield, it's like living in one of those old TV shows where everything's perfect, but you just know something's off. Emma and we've been doing this dance for over a decade, juggling jobs, kids, and whatnot. And yeah, we're good at it, like really good. But sometimes, it feels like we're just going through the motions, you know? Now Emma, she's always been the heart of any party. Bright, charming, the works. Me, I'm more of a stay at home with a good book kinda guy. This difference, it's been a bit of a sticky wicket in our marriage. We love each other, sure, but it's like we're on different wavelengths sometimes. Then, there was this one time when Emma came back from a business trip to New York. I remember it clear as day. She walked in, and something about her just seemed off. She was quieter, more in her head. I thought maybe it was just the stress of work, but boy, was I wrong. Our life in Greenfield, it's like this beautiful, serene lake. But beneath the surface, there's all this stuff we never talk about. Feelings, worries, fears. We're good at keeping up appearances, but sometimes, I wonder if we're just hiding from our own lives. You see, in a place like Greenfield, everyone knows everyone, or at least they think they do. We attend school plays, community events, and smile for the local paper. But behind closed doors, it's a different story. It's not that we're unhappy, not really. It's just that sometimes, happiness feels like a role we're playing rather than something we're living. I sometimes walk around our perfectly manicured lawn, wondering if all this perfection is just a facade. It's funny, in a town where everyone strives for the ideal life, how much effort we put into hiding our real selves. And as for me and Emma, well, let's just say, beneath the veneer of our perfect life, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. But that's Greenfield for you, a picture-perfect postcard with its own set of hidden stories. Alright, so here's the deal. Emma's always been this social dynamo, right? She can light up a room just by walking into it. Me, I'm more of a chill-at-home kind of guy. Give me a good book or a design to ponder over, and I'm set. We used to joke about how she's the sun and I'm the moon. Different, but somehow it worked. Or at least, it used to. So, Emma gets back from this business trip to New York, and man, something's just not right. She's always had this spark, you know? But it was like someone dimmed her lights. She tried to hide it with smiles and her usual chit-chat, but it was like watching a show where you know the actor's heart isn't in it. Her laughter, once so genuine, had this hollow ring to it. And her eyes, they just didn't sparkle the way they used to. I remember this one evening, right after her trip. We're sitting at dinner, the kids are chatting about school, and there's Emma, staring at her plate, lost in thought. I asked her if everything was okay at work, thinking maybe it was just stress. She gave me this quick, almost rehearsed, "Everything's fine, honey," but I could tell it wasn't. It was like there was this invisible wall between us, and no matter how much I tried, I couldn't break through. I started noticing little things, you know? Like how she'd avoid eye contact, or how she'd suddenly become interested in her phone when I walked into the room. It was weird because we've always been this team, tackling everything together. But suddenly, it felt like she was on a different continent. And it wasn't just at home. At social gatherings, where she usually shone, she'd drift to the corner, nursing a drink and faking smiles. Friends started asking if she was okay, and I didn't know what to tell them. I mean, what do you say? Yeah, my wife's turned into a stranger, and I don't have a clue why. I guess that's when I started feeling it, this growing chasm between us. It was like watching a crack slowly spread across a piece of glass. You know it's only a matter of time before it shatters, but you're just too paralyzed to do anything about it. And the worst part? I had no idea how to stop it, or even if I could. So, here's where things get really twisted. One day, I'm looking for the car keys, right? Emma's always misplacing them. I dig through her purse, and that's when I find it, a receipt for an STD test. Yeah, you heard that right. My heart just dropped to my stomach. I remember holding that piece of paper, feeling like I'd been punched. We've been together for over a decade, and not once did I ever, suspect anything. I'm staring at this receipt, and my mind's racing a mile a minute. Questions, doubts, fears, it's like a hurricane in my head. So, I wait for her to get home. The house is quiet, the kids are at my mom's place, and there's just this heavy air hanging over everything. She walks in, all smiles, asking about my day. And I just blurt it out. What's this receipt about, Emma? Her face, man, it just drops. She knows she's caught. At first, she tries to brush it off, saying it's just a routine checkup. But I can see it in her eyes, the guilt. So, I push, and that's when the dam breaks. She tells me about this guy, an old college friend she ran into in New York. One thing led to another, and, yeah. I'm standing there, feeling like my whole world's just turned upside down. Emma, my Emma, had an affair. It felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. She's crying, telling me it was a mistake, that she regrets it. But all I can think about is how our entire life feels like a lie. The thing is, I never saw it coming. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I thought we were solid, unbreakable. And now this. I felt betrayed, angry, hurt, all of it. It's like this person I've shared my life with, the mother of my kids, is suddenly a stranger. I had so many questions. Why did she do it? Was I not enough? What does this mean for us, for our family? But right then, I couldn't even speak. I just stood there, with this revelation crashing over me like a tidal wave. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it all in my head, the discovery, her confession. It's weird how one moment, one stupid piece of paper, can unravel everything you thought you knew. Our marriage, our family, it all felt so fragile, so broken. And that's how the secret came out, how our perfect little world in Greenfield got turned upside down. Trust me, it's a lot to take in. But that's just the beginning. The real storm was yet to come. Before we dive into the next chapter of this rollercoaster story, I've got a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying this tale of love, adventure, and unexpected twists, how about showing some love? Hit that like button to let me know you're on board. It's a simple click for you, but it means the world to me. It's like a virtual high five, telling me to keep the stories coming. And hey, why stop there? Go ahead and hit subscribe too. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. You know, trust is a funny thing. It's like this delicate glass sculpture, beautiful but fragile. And once it's broken, man, it's a heck of a job trying to put it back together. That's what happened to me and Emma. Her confession? It hit me like a freight train. I mean, there's the woman I've loved more than half my life, and suddenly, she's like a stranger. Trust, respect, love, it all just crumbled in a blink. I was stuck in this whirlwind of anger and sadness, not knowing which way was up. Our home, once this cozy haven, turned into a silent war zone. We'd pass each other in the hallway, in the kitchen, and it was like we were ghosts haunting the same house. The worst part? The silence, man, it was deafening. No arguments, no slamming doors, just this thick, heavy silence. I'd look at her, trying to connect the woman I knew with the one who betrayed me. It was like trying to piece together a puzzle when you know there's a piece missing. The Emma I knew wouldn't do this, but she did. How do you even begin to understand that? Nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, lost in this maze of thoughts. Emma would be there, right beside me, yet a million miles away. Sometimes, I'd hear her crying softly, and it just added to the ache. I was angry, yeah, but seeing her like that, knowing her pain was because of what she'd done, it was a lot to process. Then, there were the kids. Lily and Max, they could sense something was up. Kids are smart that way. We tried to keep things normal for them, but they knew. They always know. It broke my heart, seeing them caught up in all this. I remember one evening, sitting on the back porch, looking out at our perfectly manicured lawn, thinking how ironic it was. Everything looked the same, yet nothing was. I felt so alone, surrounded by memories of a life that felt like a lie. Emma and I, we were this unbreakable team, or so I thought. Now, I found myself questioning everything. Every smile, every "I love you," every moment we'd shared. The doubt was like this constant, nagging whisper, and I couldn't shut it off. It's weird, you know, how life can change in an instant. One day you're living this dream, and the next, it's like you're in a free fall with no parachute. That's what it felt like, a never-ending fall. And the ground? It was nowhere in sight. So, here I am, stuck at this major crossroads in my life, and let me tell you, it's no walk in the park. The aftermath of Emma's confession was like living in a fog. Every day, I'm wrestling with these big, life-changing choices. Do I stay, try to fix this mess and rebuild what we had, or do I just cut my losses and start fresh? It's like being between a rock and a hard place, and either way, it's gonna hurt. I'd walk around our home, every room filled with memories, holidays, birthdays, lazy Sundays. It was like these walls were whispering our past, and man, did my heart ache for those simpler times. But then, there was this sharp sting, this fresh wound of betrayal that just wouldn't let up. It's crazy how one mistake, one lapse in judgment, can overshadow years of love and shared experiences. Nights were the loneliest. I'd lay in bed, the space between Emma and me feeling like a chasm. My mind would race. Could I trust her again? Could we find our way back to each other, or was this the end of the road for us? I mean, I still loved her, that was the messed up part. But love, it turns out, isn't always enough. I'd think about the kids too, Lily and Max. They deserved a happy, stable home. The idea of breaking their world apart was gut-wrenching. But then, was staying together, living a lie, any better? I wanted to shield them from all this pain, but the truth has a way of seeping out, doesn't it? And it wasn't just about us. In Greenfield, everyone knows everyone. Word gets around, and I worried about the kids facing whispers and sideways glances. It's one thing for me and Emma to go through this, but the kids? They didn't sign up for any of this drama. I remember talking to my buddy, Mike, over a beer. He's been through a rough divorce, so he gets it. He told me, Jack, there's no right answer. Just gotta follow your gut. But that's the thing, my gut was in knots. I felt torn in 100 different directions. Then there was Emma. She was trying, I'll give her that. Apologies, tears, promises to make things right. But every time I looked at her, I'd see the woman I married and the woman who betrayed me. It's like she was two people, and I didn't know which one I was talking to. I guess that's what being at a crossroads is all about. It's messy, confusing, and it hurts like hell. You stand there, looking down these two paths, and you know that no matter which one you choose, things will never be the same again. It's not just about making a choice, it's about living with it. And let me tell you, that's a whole different ballgame. So there I was, at this major fork in the road, feeling like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. That's when it hit me, maybe we needed a fresh perspective, you know, a helping hand. So, I muster up what's left of my hope and propose marriage counseling to Emma. It felt like a Hail Mary, a leap into the unknown, but what else was there to do? Emma, she looked at me with these eyes full of guilt, like she was carrying this heavy burden all by herself. She agreed to counseling, almost clinging to it like a lifeline. I guess we both were, in a way. We were drowning, and this, well, this was our life raft. I remember walking into that counselor's office, feeling like I was stepping into no man's land. There's this awkwardness, you know? Sitting there with the woman you thought you knew inside out, realizing there's this whole other side to things. The counselor, Dr. Harris, she had this calm way about her, like she'd seen it all before. And I guess she had. Those first few sessions? Man, they were rough. It's like ripping off a band-aid from a wound you've been ignoring. We dove into the nitty-gritty, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. There were moments, sitting in that room, where I felt like just walking away. But something kept me there, maybe hope, maybe stubbornness, I don't know. We talked about everything, the affair, obviously, but also all the stuff we'd swept under the rug over the years. It turns out, we were pretty good at ignoring our problems, hoping they'd just vanish. Spoiler alert. They don't. And it wasn't just about Emma's mistake. We uncovered issues I didn't even know were there. My habit of withdrawing into my shell, her need to always be the life of the party. We were like two pieces of a puzzle, trying to fit together, but we'd lost sight of the picture on the box. Emma, she was a mess of remorse and guilt. She kept saying how sorry she was, how she'd do anything to make things right. And me? I was all over the place. One minute, I'm furious. The next, I just felt this deep sadness. It was like being on an emotional roller coaster, and I couldn't find the brakes. But here's the thing about counseling, it forces you to look in the mirror, to really see yourself in each other. It's uncomfortable, scary even, but it's also kind of liberating. We started to communicate, really talk for the first time in years. And let me tell you, that stuff's powerful. We learned about forgiveness, trust, and how to rebuild them both. It was like assembling a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing, but we were doing it together. It gave us this glimmer of hope, a faint light at the end of a very dark tunnel. Taking that leap of faith into counseling, it was a game changer. It didn't magically fix everything, but it gave us a fighting chance. And when you're down in the trenches, believe me, that's something to hold on to. Now, let's talk about this healing journey Emma and I embarked on. Trust me, it wasn't a walk in the park. Those counseling sessions? They were like running a marathon with no finish line in sight. It was tough, digging into the nitty-gritty of our marriage, unearthing not just the skeletons of the affair, but all sorts of buried issues we didn't even realize were there. Every week, we'd sit on Dr. Harris' couch, diving into the deep end of our relationship. It was like taking a long, hard look in a mirror that showed all the cracks and flaws. We talked about everything: our communication breakdowns, how we'd been taking each other for granted, the whole shebang. I'll be honest, there were moments during those sessions when I thought, can we really get past this? The hurt from Emma's betrayal was like this giant wall between us, and some days it seemed insurmountable. But then, we'd have these breakthroughs, these moments of clarity, and it felt like we were chipping away at that wall, brick by brick. We learned a lot about each other, stuff that surprised us both. Like how Emma felt overwhelmed by always being the perfect wife and mom, and how I often retreated into my shell, leaving her feeling alone. It was eye-opening, realizing how we'd been unintentionally hurting each other. Forgiveness, that was a biggie. It wasn't this one-time, grand gesture like in the movies. It was more of a day-by-day thing. Some days, I felt like I was making progress. Other days, the anger and hurt would come rushing back. But through it all, Emma was there, facing it with me, never giving up. We also started doing these little exercises Dr. Harris suggested, like date nights and open communication drills. Sounds cheesy, I know, but it helped. We began reconnecting, rediscovering each other. It was like we were dating again, getting to know the people we'd become over the years. And the kids, Lily and Max, they started noticing the change too. We were laughing more, arguing less. The house began to feel like a home again, not just a place where we coexisted. It was a slow transformation, but a real one. One thing I realized on this healing path was that love is resilient. It can bend, break, and even seem lost at times, but it's tougher than you think. We were two imperfect people, trying to fix something we both valued, even though we'd nearly destroyed it. This journey of forgiveness and understanding, it didn't erase the past, but it gave us a new perspective. We learned to cherish what we have, to communicate better, and to truly listen to each other. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Because in the end, we were not just healing our marriage, we were rediscovering ourselves and each other. And let me tell you, that's a kind of magic you don't find just anywhere. So, here we are, Emma and I, stepping into this vast sea of uncertainty. It's like we're on this path, not quite sure where it leads, but we're taking it together. This journey, man, it's been a roller coaster. Sure, it didn't magically erase the past, the affair, the hurt, the trust issues, but it's given us something else, something like a second chance. You know, the funny thing about hitting rock bottom is, the only way left is up. That affair, as devastating as it was, it sort of jolted us awake. It became this unlikely catalyst for growth, for understanding the deeper layers of our marriage. We began to see our relationship not just for what it had been, but for what it could be. The future? Yeah, it's as uncertain as a weather forecast. But here's the kicker, we're not that scared of it anymore. We've been through the storm, got soaked to the bone, and now we're learning to dance in the rain, so to speak. It's not about forgetting the past, it's about learning from it, growing beyond it. Walking hand in hand with Emma now, it feels different. There's this new level of awareness, like we're more tuned into each other. Our conversations have depth, our silences comfort. We laugh more, bicker less. It's not perfect, far from it. But it's real, it's raw, and it's us. We've learned a lot about love, its fragility, its strength. Love's not just about the good times, it's about weathering the storms together. It's about falling apart and then finding a way to piece it all back together. It's messy, it's complicated, but it's also beautiful in its own, imperfect way. Our kids, Lily and Max, they're happier too. Kids sense these things, you know? They know when the house feels like a home again. And that's what we're rebuilding, not just our marriage, but our family, our home. It's a work in progress, but then again, what isn't. So, what does the future hold for us? I wish I knew, but one thing's for sure, whatever comes our way, we'll face it together. This journey taught us to embrace the unknown, to find strength in our vulnerabilities. We're walking into uncertainty, yes, but we're doing it hand in hand, with a newfound respect and love for each other. And that, my friend, is the beauty of this journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the walk, the ups and downs, and the person you're walking with. Emma and I, we're walking this path together, uncertain where it leads, but sure of one thing, we're in it together, for better or